So August was the world's going against us. We're losing a lot of money. But September 1998 was, no, the world is now systematically trading against us. There's no hope. There's no way out. And then when we called the Fed, because we knew more about than anyone, of course, we absolutely did not expect a bailout, and we were not asking for a bailout. We said there's no way the Fed's going to bail out a hedge fund. I mean, come on. But we just being good corporate citizens. We're like, man, this is a problem. We ought to let them know before it takes down the world, because that was in the process of happening. And I'll never forget Peter Fisher, who was head of the open market desk at the time, and Dino Coss, his right hand, and Gary Gensler, who was assistant secretary of the Treasury. Now he's the head of the SEC. These guys never go away. Gary and Dino and Peter came up to Greenwich and sat with JM and me for 6 or 7 hours. And we had computers, of course, but we had printouts of the positions. We just went page by page. And at the end of this, hours long presentation, Peter Fisher, his face was white, and he said, blanched, and he said, "We knew you guys were going to take down the bond market. We didn't know you were going to take down the stock market, because we had $15 billion of stock positions. We were the largest risk arbitrager on the street. Nobody knew that. Like, hey, you guys are bond guys. What are you doing in the stock market?" We were in every deal. If you go back and look, Lockheed Martin, Lockheed Boeing, Citibank Travelers, MCI WorldCom. You go back and look at the deals of the time. We were in every one, up to 4.9%, because you don't have to disclose until you hit 5. So we would cap ourselves out at 4.9. Nobody knew this. And it's like, you guys are going to take down every market in the world. And we would have. So that's when they went back and had breakfast with John Corzine, was the head of Goldman Sachs at the time, and Sandy Warner at JP Morgan, and David Kamansky was head of Merrill Lynch, and they sat down and cooked up the bailout. Then there was like no sleep for 5 days. But my point is, the best description of a financial crisis I've ever heard is everybody wants her money back. Like, that's the easiest way to understand it. It's not like, this asset's bad, I'm out of this, I'm going into that, or I'm rotating out of this sector, getting into that sector, or no, it's like everybody wants his or her money back now. And so all asset classes behave the same way. They all go down, and all the spreads widen, and they keep widening until either there's a sequential financial failure, which was happening in 2008, by the way, just to jump ahead to that, or you shut every market in the world. We came within hours of closing every market in the world in 1998. We got the $4 billion in. There's a press release. Things calmed down, not right away, but we still lost more money after that. After Wall Street took us over, we lost another $500 million. But Alan Greenspan cut rates twice in a matter of days, and then things calmed down and kind of went back to normal. Actually, Wall Street made money on that deal. That wasn't their intention. They were trying to save their own skins. But a year later, it was liquidated, and they took their money back with a small profit. But at the time when you're in it, there's no rationality. There's no rotation. There's no safe harbor. It's like everything's going down. And we're getting close to that today.
And you're saying the same thing happened in 2008 when you saw Lehman going bust, a few others almost going bust, and you're like, okay, this is just happening again, except now it just happens bigger.
When I saw it in 1998, when I saw it in 2008, I wasn't even reading all the stories. Like, I know this movie. I know how this ends. But yeah, Lehman, sure, big deal. But go back again, this goes back to what I said about 98. It started in 97. These markets are so large, the scale of the system is so large that it can take a year to play out. You have to understand the dynamics to understand that. And most people on Wall Street don't, because they're using badly flawed models and regressions and normal distributions of risk. I said none of that. It's all garbage, but that's what people use. But if you understand complexity theory and complex system dynamics, you also understand that it takes a while to play out. An avalanche starts with a snowflake and ends up burying a village. You're supposed to be looking for the snowflake. And in 2008, that started in 2007, August 2007. There were two Bear Stearns hedge funds that went illiquid, basically suspended redemptions and closed their doors, and a money market fund at one of the big French banks, Societe Generale. But and that was not Bear Stearns itself. They were the Bear Stearns hedge funds. Bear Stearns didn't bail them out. Typical Bear Stearns. Believe me, Bear Stearns refused to participate in the 1998 bailout of long-term capital. So when they went down in 2008, I promise you, no tears were shed on Wall Street, because that was like, what goes around comes around. It was the attitude. But so that was the start. But remember, Bear Stearns itself failed in March 2008. Then by June, it was Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. And then in August, the Congress passed a bailout law for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. I was advising the John McCain campaign at the time, and I was on a call, and they were like all high-fiving, like, yeah, the crisis is over. Congress bailed out Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. We can get back to talking about the war in Iraq, because that's what we really want to talk about. And I, skunk at the garden party, I said, guys, you're not going to make it to election day without this getting much, much worse. I didn't say, September 15th, Lehman Brothers, although everyone knew Lehman was the weak link. I mean, that was true in 98. That was always true on Wall Street. They were always the weak link. But I said, you are not going to make it to election day without an exponential increase in this crisis. So why don't you get ready for that now? Write your speech, have a 4-point plan. It doesn't matter what the points are, just have them, and put your guy on the steps of Treasury and reassure the American people you'll win the election. I was laughed at, not invited back. I'm used to that. And then when it came, McCain runs around like a chicken with his head off, barging into the White House, demanding an emergency meeting. Well, Bush says, well, I can't invite McCain in without inviting Obama in, which he had to do. He didn't want to pick sides in the campaign. And there was a cabinet meeting, and Obama didn't know anything either, but he was smart enough to keep his mouth shut. And McCain's running around. So American people looked at that and they go, you're nuts. You kind of look calm, cool, and collected. If you look at the polls, they reversed. Obama was behind until Lehman. And then after Lehman, and days later, Obama went ahead in the polls. So that was a turning point in the election. But it's, and then so getting back to 2008. So when Lehman came up in September, it was September 15, 2008. That was like the fourth domino. Not the first. Everyone remembers it. Oh, that all fell apart after Lehman. Well, it did, but you could see that coming a year away. And Morgan Stanley was days away from collapsing. Goldman would have been right behind it. Then probably Citi, whether JP Morgan would have been the last guy standing, don't know. But there were many more dominoes to fall. And that's when Bernanke and Hank Paulson walked over to the White House and said, we got to do something. And they did. What they did is overnight, they converted Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs into bank holding companies. Now, I've been a securities lawyer and bank lawyer for decades. And when you do applications to the Fed, depending on the politics, it can take a couple of years to get something like that approved. This was done like in a day. But the reason it was done was that the Fed could bail them out. Once they were bank holding companies, the Fed had the statutory authority to bail them out. They did. Then things calmed down and we had a bad recession, and AIG was another wild card in the deck. But my point is a couple of points. Number one, you can see these things coming if you know where to look, but most people don't. Number two, they take a while to play out. So you get plenty of warning. But again, people ignore the warnings.
The greedy bankers are about to do it again. In 2008, they crashed our financial system and nearly bankrupted the entire global economy. Then they received trillions of dollars in government bailouts. And after, they demanded fat bonuses paid for by you, the taxpayer.
It turns out the banks haven't just been screwing the American taxpayers, they're also screwing over their investors. Turns out the banking industry is the worst place you could put your money, despite enormous taxpayer bailouts.
Now the bankers are back to take away your financial freedom. They lie and tell you that cryptocurrency isn't safe. They try to make it illegal for you to choose how to invest your hard-earned money. They lie and say cryptocurrency is used by money launderers and criminals. But look at the record. It's the banks themselves that launder hundreds of billions of dollars every year to the biggest criminal operations in the world.
Leaked documents have revealed how some UK banks have helped criminals, money launderers and Russians under sanctions.
American authorities discovered that the Sinaloa cartel moved $881 million through HSBC accounts as bank officials turned a blind eye to the illegality.
The bankers lie and say cryptocurrency is not a real investment. Meanwhile, the smartest CEOs in the world are buying billions and billions of it. The truth is that banks lie about cryptocurrency because it makes them scared. The banks take $9 trillion per year of your hard-earned money, and they are worried that they will finally be exposed. They're scared because crypto means they can no longer control your money, which means they can no longer control you. They are scared because you might actually understand your money and intelligently decide what to do with it. Now is the time for us to come together, fight back, and take control. It's time to educate ourselves, our families, and our communities. Because financial education means financial freedom. We know that cryptocurrencies will help us build the new decentralized financial system of the future. A banking system that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. A banking system where access to finance is a fundamental human right. A banking system that is free and fair and welcomes all humans on this earth. The DeFi revolution is happening. We, the people, can no longer be fooled. We choose to take control of our finances. We choose to take control of our freedom. We choose to take control of our future. Join us, and let's take back our financial freedom forever.